In a world of challenges and uncertainties, hope shines as a beacon, guiding us through the dark times and showing us the way to brighter days ahead. But what exactly is hope? Where does it come from? And how does it shape our lives? I'm Annie Bennett, and I'd love you to join me on this journey as I explore the meaning of hope. I'll delve into philosophical perspectives, personal stories, and scientific insights to understand the power of this elusive emotion. So whether you're seeking inspiration, comfort, or simply a deeper understanding of the human spirit, let's embark on this exploration together and discover the extraordinary power of hope. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Chronicles of Hope podcast with me, Annie Bennett. Oh, now I've got a very interesting guest for you today. I'm really looking forward to chatting with this lady. She's got such an interesting story. And I believe that this is the first podcast that she's come to speak on. So we're very honoured to have her here. So welcome, Ruth Toynton. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very weird to be here, but I'm also very excited to share my story with you guys.
Fabulous. Yeah. Yeah. Because it is an amazing story. I mean, you only gave me a paragraph of it a while back, and wow, there's so much in there, isn't there? It's such an interesting story. Perhaps you'd like to just sort of go back and tell us a bit about your story and a bit about yourself, and perhaps how you've come to be doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so my story I think starts with my father's illness.
Mm.
Um, my dad was took me to the doctors as a young child, and the doctor said to my dad, "She's fine, but when did you last have a blood test? You look terrible."
Mm.
And so it sort of developed from there. Um, my dad was poorly and in and out of hospital for most of my life.
Mm.
So um, sort of a lot of it is hazy for me because it started when I was so young. That was the normal in our house.
Mm.
Dad would go into hospital, he'd be poorly for a bit, and then he'd come home and he'd be okay. But you then, as a child, it becomes the normal thing. So
Mm.
my dad would be sort of well, and he would be taking his tablets, and everything would be fine, and then he'd be collapsing in our bathroom, and he'd have to go into hospital for weeks on end. And the doctors would tell my mum things, but it was all very hushed voices.
Yeah.
So it was all very, we must protect the children. And again, it was sort of different when I was young because this is sort of 30 odd years ago. So
Mm.
now there'd be social workers, now there'd be outreach for the family, maybe.
Mm.
But then it was very different. So we were left, me and my brother were left to sort of cope with this roller coaster of, watching dad deteriorate and then him being okay for a while and then him having blood tests and blood transfusions and all these different things without support. With my mum is, well, she still is a
Yeah.
very nervous person.
Mm.
So she was terrified that my dad was going to die. So it became sort of a very, very tense family household for much of my childhood. And this, like I said, this was from such an early age that I didn't know anything different.
Yeah.
It was only, and when I had my own child, sort of 16-ish years ago, that I realized how complex the situation was then, because obviously I'm now the parent of a child, and my husband sort of had sort of a spell in hospital,
Mm.
and the worry that I felt and the worry and the anxiety that my husband was going to be okay, but also the wanting to do better for my own child sort of was a real moment of clarity. It was a real moment of learning and of just realization, I suppose, realization what mum and dad must have been going through and how complex the situation was. And I think that was a learning opportunity, I think, because it felt like a redo in my life, sort of thing. So as part of my childhood, I always wanted to sing. Music was my thing. I would spend hours and hours and hours clutching my CDs and pretending to be Whitney Houston. And I think it was the music that I listened to that got me through it. I could always sing, always, 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 but with everything that was going on, I chose to keep it to myself. I sort of did it. I sang in the house, but I felt unable to do it sort of outside of the house. For a long time, I was a very quiet child, sort of very quiet. There were long periods of my childhood where I didn't speak much at all. I think they call it selective mutism now.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
But again, there wasn't the language then to sort of say, your daughter probably needs help with this. It was all very much, oh, she's quiet. I was also overweight as a child and mixed race in a very small seaside town. So me and my, because the colour is from my mum, she's a lot darker than I am. So there was slight racism in, very slight, oh, you're that family. So I was sort of getting attention for being a bigger child, getting attention for having strange curly hair. So I didn't want any more attention. I didn't want to bring the attention to myself by saying, well, actually, I can do this.
Yeah.
Because any attention on me sort of seemed too much. Yeah. It seemed like it was something that I couldn't control, where I could control who I spoke to, and I could control, what I used my mouth for. And my mouth was, I used it for singing, and that was it. So I sang but didn't really speak. And because of the way my parents were at the time, it was, oh, she's shy. She'll get over it. She, she'll grow out of it. There didn't seem to be the space in the room for any of my issues with so much sort of going on. And I think my mum was had her own anxieties about my dad, and my dad had his own anxieties about hospitals and stuff. There never seemed space in the household to go, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
So I think that I sort of got the idea pretty young that if I wanted things, that I had to wait or do it for myself. And I think I carried that through. So, it's something that I'm still to this day probably unlearning. That sort of community is out there somewhere, and I can sort of take an active role in community and things because by telling my story. But again, like we said before, when you have that sort of trauma experience, you're sort of sort of ashamed of it, and you sort of you keep it quiet, and sometimes you're encouraged not to tell anybody, or like it's sort of it can be a difficult thing to open up about, especially if you're not used to doing it, and it feels a bit weird, and it would bring me sort of attention again, and that was something that I didn't want, because the attention I'd had previous was negative. It was comments on my weight, it was comments on my funny hair. So I didn't want any more comments about my family situation, so I chose to keep it to myself for a very long time. So I didn't really sort of start to sing and start to consider performing until I'd moved out and was married.
Right.
So my husband is a huge support of me doing sort of everything, every mad idea I have. He's just sort of gone, oh, all right then, yeah.
Love it.
He's quite a chilled out, well, he's mostly sort of quite a chilled out guy. So when I go, oh, I'm gonna go off and do this, he just goes, oh, all right. So I got married, and he's lovely. He's a lovely, lovely guy, and we had a child, and our child went to school. And I said to him, oh, I'm really bored during the day. What do you think I should do? And we'd got a prospectus from a college, like the local college, and he just sort of handed it to me. And I thought, oh, I'll just have a look. Anyway, I saw a music course and I applied. And then I realized it was a degree course.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I sort of applied for this degree and sort of went, oh, it'll be all right, not sort of realizing the amount of work that was ahead of me. So I sort of went into this degree, and I passed it barely by the skin of my teeth. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm, master of, but it was a journey, because suddenly I was in a room with 19-year-olds. I was 10 years older than them. I was a mum. I was, I had a family. I had the pots to do. I had the vacuuming to do. I had school runs. And then I was running off to my lessons to sort of be in a band. And then I found that I was sort of mum to some of the students that were in the group, because they were sort of young, 19-year-olds, first time away from home. I was, mum. I was boundary setter, budget keeper, drinking partner, sort of song collaborator. I was, best mate. I was agony aunt, and the first time away from home is scary for a lot of people. Absolutely. So I did all that for sort of a few of the kids, and they helped me with all the tech stuff, because obviously, out of education for that long, everything changed. Everything had changed. Even the way we got into the computers was different from the things that I used in my youth at school. Just everything was different. Even I couldn't believe, when I first started uni, I couldn't believe that you sent your tutors emails and they responded to you, and that you turned in essays and projects via email.
Wow.
And they had and my friend Hannah had to show me how to do it. She had to sort of, right, this is what you do. And she sat behind me sort of almost the entire 3 years going, are you all right? Do you know how to do this?
Wow.
So it was like an exchange that we had. She supported me for, in ways that I needed, and I supported her in ways that she needed. So when I came, we both passed our degrees, and it was great. And I think I had this idea that I'd just go off and be a singer after that I would just, because I was qualified to do it, that I would just be it and it would be fine. But I think when you leave university, it's a huge step, because you go from having this really lovely, supportive community to you sort of being just by yourself and having to sort of, the real work begins then, because you're essentially self-employed and you've got to get your bum going, haven't you? You've got to start to make things happen. And sort of the few friends that I had moved back to where they came from, and we're still in touch sort of via Facebook and all the socials, but it's different than having your community around you.
Absolutely.
I also had to go back to having sort of a day job. So now I work in social care
Mm.
with people who have mental health issues and autism. So they have sort of various diagnoses, and we are sort of part of their everyday life.
Yeah.
But I've also sort of made time to do my creative thing.
Mm.
So I have, during the pandemic, I found a guy making um, instrumental tracks who lives, I think, who I always get this right. I think he lives in Berlin.
Oh, right.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was scrolling Instagram one day
Mm.
and I found this guy making music and I thought, oh, these are really cool. And it turned out that he was selling these tracks. So what you do basically is you buy this piece of music and then you write what you want to write to it. And then you can go into the studio with these tracks and sort of get it recorded.
Mm.
So that's what I started to do. So I'd buy the tracks off the people that were making them, sort of download them to my computer or my phone, and
Mm.
then listen to them to yeah, just to write something. And I never thought that it would get as big as it did.
Mm.
So I started using my Facebook communities. I started using my Instagram community to promote these songs that I was making with these people. But I'd always go back. I always go back to the same producers in Hull
Mm.
to and to be in the studio because we've I know a guy called Pat and we've got very similar sort of music tastes and influences.
Yeah.
So I can take this piece of music to Pat and say, right, this is what I'm doing with this. Can you sort of record it? And do you have an idea? You know, we sort of talk about the idea of what the song is going to be and
Mm.
how it sounds and stuff. So, and then I release them on Spotify.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not sort of gigging and all of that, I'm still very much part of the music scene.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sort of gigging is difficult when you're sort of solo artist. I
Yeah.
think people like to see guitars and all that because I don't play anything and all my music is on like a tablet.
Yeah.
So I can play the tracks and sing. But yeah, so I think at this point I'm still working very hard at my day job.
Mm.
But there's been a shift recently where I'm starting to talk more about my story and my journey as a musician.
Mm.
So I'm setting up like a Facebook community for musicians to support other musicians because I'm only the musician that I am. I'm only the person that I am because I've had lots and lots and lots of help and lots of input from some amazing, amazing people on
Yeah.
my journey towards where I am and who I am. So I think it's about time I started to, you know, give a little bit back to the music community that helped me when, you know, I didn't know what on earth I was doing.
Yeah.
If we can help people like that that are, you know, that have had difficult or complicated journeys or that are just starting out and don't know how to get their music out on Spotify or they're having trouble making videos or even things like mental health support or
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
So I'm launching a group and hopefully it leads to me sort of doing more one-to-one mentoring um,
Mm.
or just because ultimately for me I'd love to be doing something music related full time
Yeah.
rather than my day job. But obviously, the day job is support work, so it informs the way that I would do the mentoring. Um, and yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment. I'm sort of hoping for big things.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I'll make sure that you give me the, all the group details because I'll put them in the show notes and anyone who's interested can find
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
such an amazing story. Um, you know, if we could go back to sort of your childhood, and it
Yeah,
was such an, you know, as you say, not a normal childhood, even though at the time you didn't know, because you don't know any different when you're a child, do you? What you're brought up
no,
in is
that's it.
your normal, isn't it? But
Yeah.
you know, I'm thinking about, you know, hope and you know, the theme of our podcast. Uh, was there, how hopeful were you as a child? Did you ever think, oh, this is going to be forever? Or did you have hopes and dreams that, you know, you would branch out into music or do something with it? Or how did that manifest itself?
Yeah, I think the hope was always there. I think at some points hope felt like it was the only thing I had that was real. You know, I sort of had the dream of being Whitney Houston, or but I didn't know the method. Like there was a goal, but there wasn't the steps. There
No,
wasn't the
you don't know as a child, do you? How do I get
no.
to do that? You
Yeah,
no, absolutely, you know, no
yeah,
idea. And of course, you mention it to people that, you know, possibly like teachers or people like that. They go, "Oh no, no, you want a proper job," and you know,
yeah,
they cast it aside, don't they? But it
yeah.
must be really interesting for you as a, you know, as someone who chose not to speak. I wonder how did your, you know, your teachers at school react? Was it just, oh, Ruth's just the quiet one at the back, or were they ever concerned about it, or did they ever try and do anything about it?
Like a lot of it is quite hazy.
Mm.
I don't remember teachers being I don't remember teachers intervening where I think they would now.
They were
I think
certainly
it was
would, yeah.
I think it was just she's very shy.
Mm.
Or I mean, obviously with it being a very small village that we lived,
Yeah.
I was quite unusual, sort of anyway, to because everybody else was white, all the teachers were white. There was probably no understanding of, you
Right.
know, she's like we'd say, oh, you know, that child is probably experiencing racism, or that child is probably there wasn't any of that then. So it was like even the things with um like no autism and things like that, even those things weren't picked up on, because looking back there was people in that class that would probably be put through assessments now,
Yeah.
or would probably were sort of very lively, or you know, sort of very jumpy children that would probably be benefit from ADHD assessment
Yeah.
and that sort of pathway. um so there wasn't the language there to even begin to sort of say, so it was just shy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, you know, having been 30 years a primary teacher, I sort of saw the, you know,
Yeah,
evolution of, you know, the special needs, you know, how they
yeah,
were, when I first started in the early 90s, it was, yeah, it was very much, you know, the ADHD children
yeah,
weren't labeled as that because they didn't really know much about it. And it was, you know, they were the handfuls, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And
definitely. I was the good girl. You know, she's so quiet, she's so lovely to have in my class, she doesn't say anything, but then I know as a parent that a child that is quiet is quite unusual,
yes,
from, you know, having my own child, and my own child that's gone through the process of having a diagnosis of Asperger's. So a quiet child to me now is a
mm,
bit of a worry,
yeah,
because you know, children are meant to be excited about the world. They're meant to be excited about what they're learning. They are
yes, and yeah.
supposed to be constantly asking you questions and constantly bothering you about why this is like that, and
Why? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The amount of whys from my own child, and
Mm,
then from other, you know, small children that I know. Why is your hair like that?
yeah,
What's this? What are you doing?
yeah,
Where is that? You know, so for me, sort of looking back at it, a quiet child would be a worry.
yeah, yeah,
But again, you only sort of you are guided by the people around you. So, you know, in my little world, me being quiet was normal. Me sort of listening to music for hours on end was normal. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it was also normalized. I didn't realize till I had my own child the ways in which I was maybe let down by adults around me,
Yeah.
because I think there was a moment, and I've done the work on this as well,
Mm.
where I think all those adults that interacted with me, how did you not see it?
Mm.
And I think for a long time, I was angry about that at different stages of my in my sort of healing
Mm.
journey, if you like,
Yeah.
because there must have been so many adults that I interacted with at primary school, at secondary school, because this went on. My dad's illness was from before I started primary, sort of all the way through secondary school.
Gosh, that's a long
And
time.
he eventually died when I was a teenager, but
Mm.
all those adults missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely now it would be a red flag to any teacher.
Yeah.
A child that doesn't speak. Absolutely. You'd be really concerned and talking to parents and talking to people that could help. So it's really sad that you had such a, did you feel lonely during your childhood as well?
At times, but again, I had Whitney, I had Mariah, I had,
Yeah.
so I knew there
Mm.
was there might be sort of something, a community, but it was just so far away.
Mm.
The dream was, you know, it was the dream, it was the hope again, like we sort of,
Yeah.
we bring it back to, aren't we? The
Yeah.
hope that at some point, almost like a fantasy thing that I held on to for dear life, as
Yeah.
far that there was somebody out there that understood who I was
Yeah.
and would see me for me at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my guests about, obviously about hope, because that's what the podcast is about. And a conclusion that quite a few have come to is that hope is nothing without, taking action. You can
Yeah.
hope for things and you can wish for things, but unless you actually put something into action, and you clearly did, taking your music degree, you got to the point where you thought, right, well, I've got to do something about this. I've got to,
Yeah.
some action, because say it's just sitting there and hoping and wishing isn't going to get you anywhere, is it?
Oh no.
Yeah,
No, I think a lot of this stuff, because I was so used to not having the support,
yeah,
when I met my husband and he was like, "Oh, go on then." I was like, "What?"
yeah.
I sort of, what? That was not what I was expecting. But he was just like, "Oh no, go do your thing,
Mm,
go." And I was like, "I
wonderful.
think I might be doing this course. I think I might be doing a degree." And he was just so laid back with, I just sort of casually announced it as I was sort of, we'd put the kettle on and had a cup of tea, and I think I'm going to do a degree.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, as long as you get childcare, that's fine. And so I sort of went, oh, okay, and I went for the audition, and my teacher spoke to me about the audition that I gave as I was graduating and said, we could tell you were a caged bird.
Oh wow. Oh
And I
wow.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Because again, me being quiet, me being
Yeah.
shy, was with his eyes, it was suspicious. It was something that
Mm,
they realized as a team that I hadn't even realized about myself.
yeah.
And I hope they must have done, enjoyed watching me develop through this course and having fun and hopefully letting my guard down a little bit and,
Yeah.
sort of engaging with them. And hopefully they see, because I'm still friends with a couple on Facebook and
Yeah.
still in contact with a couple. I really hope that they realize as teachers how much of a role they played in my journey, in this chapter of the story, and how they sort of kick-started the passion that I have for making music and helping others to, fulfill their own musical dreams.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's wonderful. I think that's just wonderful. It sounds like, you were sort of in a shell, and during the degree you sort of chipped your way out of it and came out
Yeah.
really out of it. Um And it must have been felt quite liberating, really. Must be quite a nice
Yeah.
feeling that know
Um,
that you're doing what you want to do.
yeah, I think it was a bit of everything. I think there was a lot of realization moments during the degree because sort of being in the classroom unlocked a lot of childhood stuff that I had to deal with.
Of course, yeah.
Um, Obviously, sat in front of a teacher and the teacher saying to the class, "Put your hand up if you need help," and I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
but I don't do that, or I can't do that. I can't put my hand up for help." Because it was, sort of straight back to,
Yeah.
me being the child and me being sort of just sat looking at my work and not sort of speaking and not asking questions. And like my friend Hannah was amazing in that she'd just nudge me and
Mm.
sort of go, "You all right?" Sort of very quietly, just to
Yeah.
sort of make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And
Mm.
then I'd sort of show her what I was doing and all this sort of thing. And then she'd go, "Oh no, you need to be this." And she
Mm.
would sort of help me through. But I eventually I learned I learned to ask the teachers
Yeah.
for help. And I mean, obviously, sort of I passed the degree, so I
Mm.
wasn't too bad. But it was growth. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of growth is sometimes quite painful.
Oh,
And again, there was a lot of realizations about the family situation and how not right some of it was. And yeah, just it was a period of growth and a period of change. Yeah, it was just growth. I didn't always like it, but it
mm.
was probably always necessary.
Yeah. Well, that's often the case, isn't it? Yeah. But people are in their comfort zones and they're in their safe place.
Yeah.
Um, and to actually come out of that is really scary and really, and you've obviously done, made massive leaps out of that little comfort zone of not speaking and, you know, almost hiding away. And here you are now with your videos and your
Yeah,
website. Incredible.
my my website, yeah. Oh, that website took me ages because I put it together myself. It's only a GoDaddy website, but I am sort of everybody I show it to is like, "Oh wow, that's really
Does
cool."
look really good. I'll put the link in the show notes so
Thank you.
listeners can have a look at it. But because you wrote those songs yourself, is that right?
Yeah, so all the songs that I've released, all of them that are on Spotify are songs that I wrote myself.
Wow.
There's I literally I get the tracks and I write what I want to write,
Yeah.
and then I go into the studio and then me and Pat sort of have a bit of a play.
Mm.
Usually I've got all the bits for the song and I do all the arranging of the harmonies and things like that. And then he helps me make it a song. So he helps to put everything together because the studio is one thing that I don't think I could do by myself.
Yeah.
I always I always need someone else to
Let the experts do it. Let the
yeah,
because it's lovely.
yeah.
It's a lovely what you see, sort of jazzy and well, how would you describe your music?
Yeah, there are elements of all sorts in there. I
Yeah.
think the primary thing is soul, like new soul, new jazz
Yeah.
type of thing because it's all very jazz influenced.
Mm.
It's yeah, sort of jazz influenced soul, I think would be the best description of it. It's pretty chilled out. It's almost background music, but not quite. Yeah,
It's love.
if you want to listen to something chilled out and just have 3 minutes of, you know, soulful bliss, then
Yeah.
listen to my song.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I presume that the plan now is to just try and get it out there and get known and get seen, is it?
Yeah. So for the music it is just
Yeah.
to get it out there and just to because obviously with me having such a huge story, I sort of try and put some of that into the music. So some things that I write about are things I've experienced. So there's all that. I think, yeah, I just now is like the time to give back, I think, to
Yeah.
sort of give back to the community.
Yeah.
So it'll be sort of I mean, obviously the music is still very important and I'm still a musician creator, but I think it's time to sort of give something back. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm starting to do.
Sounds wonderful what you're going to do. Because I mean, music has a real power. It's a real shame that, as I say, I was 30 years a primary teacher and I did a lot of music at schools, but it's music that's often sort of put on the sidelines. Oh, we can't afford it, or no one
Yeah.
knows how to do it, so we'll leave it out. And it has
Yeah.
such a power and such, as you said, you didn't speak, but you would sit at home and sing. And
Yeah.
it's the power of communication of music, and it has so many benefits.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful what you're planning to do to bring like-minded people together. It's fabulous. Did you say it's not the group's not quite set up yet? Or I mean, by the time this goes out, it might. What's the sort of time scale?
So the group has had a soft launch today, this morning. What I've done is I've set it up and then invited some people in. So I will be sort of pushing the group over my socials for the weekend and see if I can get as many people in as possible, and then just keep promoting it, keep doing things like this, keep bothering my local radio DJs.
Absolutely, yes.
Keep sort of reposting and sort of talking about who I am and what I do in sort of various ways to promote the group. I've made a lot of connections and a lot of networks sort of in the local area anyway.
Yeah.
But to have everybody in one place would be amazing. And obviously, even if you're not local area, you can still join because there's still some value in what you have to say.
Yeah.
And there's still musicians at, any stage of their journey, even if they're on massive stages, or even if you're just a guy that likes to write songs or likes to play your guitar in your bedroom, there's still something that maybe someone else can learn from.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's what we're about.
Love it. I absolutely love that. And we'll definitely put the link in the notes so that people can connect. Fabulous.
Yeah.
We've been talking for ages. I've just looked at the time. Time flies. It always flies when I'm talking to my guests. I get so into it and want to know so much. We will have to bring it to an end now, but I always ask my guests whether they have a message of hope for my listeners. Might you have a message of hope for listening?
A message of hope. I think the amount of hope I've had over the years has been like the best coping mechanism ever.
Yeah.
It's something that I've hung on to with white knuckles for dear life. I think if you don't have anything, you always have hope. And I think being able to talk about traumas and being able to talk about the things you've experienced, just help. It makes it lighter. Every single time you sort of open your mouth or you create something that, even if nobody else hears it, the load can be lightened. And I think that's the message.
Absolutely.
With support, obviously. With support, always with support.
Fabulous. Oh, Ruth, it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure this is the first of many podcasts because it's such an interesting story.
I'm hoping so.
And we'll put everything in the show notes so everyone can get a hold of you who's interested in finding out more. But Ruth Toynton, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been amazing.
Thank you for listening to the Chronicles of Hope podcast with me, Annie Bennett. I hope you found inspiration, comfort, or perhaps even a newfound perspective around the meaning of hope. To find out more about the aims of the Chronicles of Hope organisation, please visit thechroniclesofhope.org, where you will find links to our social media accounts and where you will be able to make a much needed and appreciated donation. Thank you.